Hey guys, my name is Peter Capozzi, and I saw yesterday this film called The Temple, which was a horror film that I saw like on my on-demand thing. I wanted to check it out because the premise of it looked kind of interesting. Haven't heard of it, which isn't a good sign. Um, and I wanted to check it out. I was watching this with my mother and stuff like that, and it looked kind of interesting, but it was almost, it's, where to begin? It's one of those bad movies where it's not laughably bad, but just doesn't hit the mark. It's one of those films that I feel like Brad Jones, this would be like one that he would watch and just be like, this is like another disappointments room. Like I feel like this is the disappointments room of J horror, because it's one of those films that, especially, it literally falls apart in the third act. Like, once one of the characters leaves the temple, that's when things just really just fall apart, and it doesn't even try to make sense. So we have three characters in this movie. We have the camera guy, like this long-haired guy who speaks Japanese. We have this girl character, and then we have the asshole boyfriend character. And essentially one of the things that is kind of okay is the boyfriend is clearly an ass, but at the same time they don't go too over the top with it. And I feel like if this movie was better handled, especially in its third act, if you can call it that, this it would have that would have been a major good point in it, actually. Some of the exposition is forced because we open up with this police investigation scene. It's like Japanese police, because it's most of this film takes place in Japan, in case you couldn't tell, because it revolves around like this temple, like a Shinto temple, I believe, or was it Shinto or Buddhist? It couldn't make up its mind about that. And so you have this. So you have this police investigation, right? And the guy essentially just like, you see this guy come in, he's like in a wheelchair. He has like this bag thing over him, which thankfully my mom's a nurse, so she was like, that's like something that they would have on if he needs oxygen or if he's contaminated, which presumably it's the former because he's not contaminated. One thing that's kind of odd about this film in the beginning is it seems to like want to be like found footage at first, because you have like a couple of found footage segments, which is how like some of the exposition's kind of forced in this movie. Like that's how you find out about the Japanese speaking guy, how he was like his brother had died or something. He was basically in a really dark spot, and that's one of the reasons why he's going on this trip to Japan. Which sounds like it's setting up some stuff, but it really doesn't make sense. It's like by the third part, like by the end of it, I really wasn't sure what actually happened. Get to that in a sec. I mean, most of the film is kind of like a standard setup, but basically they end up going to this temple once they get to Japan. They come across like this book that has like stuff in it that like creeps out this, like the owner of the bookstore. You see this kid throughout the whole thing who is basically like the creepy kid, although to this film's credit, most of the creepier shit he does, the other characters don't see. Like it's not as overt. Which again, if this film had a better payoff and stuff, that would be stuff to its credit. Essentially, there's some backstory about the temple that means absolutely nothing at the end of the day. Because there was like some kids went missing by the shrine, by this temple. A monk came down with his eyes literally in his hands, and this other stuff that makes it imply that people go, like some monks or something, went crazy. But it's like, it's so hard to tell, because it's like, it's one of those films where it's hard to tell. It's like, is this just a tale about the horrors of mental illness, or is this a supernatural thing? It needs to make up its mind. That's why it's like reminding me of like the Disappointments Room, where it doesn't know what it wants to be, which is a shame because I really like the idea, like especially if it focused away from the kid stuff, because that's one of the things that's probably the most unoriginal about it, is the focus on kid stuff, which, from my understand, is a bigger thing in J horror than it is like in other horror stuff like The Shining aside. And it's like, because this Japanese folklore has other creatures that somehow like that are very much equivalent to stuff you find in other cultures, but it's actually noticeably different. I mean, I'm not gonna pretend like I'm an expert, but some of the stuff I'd like to see. Like, there's this creature called the Juo. I'm gonna butcher the pronunciations here. The Juogumo, which is like a spider woman thing. That's like lures men, and she's like a spider, and the spider half is it's like black and yellow and stuff like that. That's really interesting. And of course, every culture has a demon equivalent. For the Japanese, I think one of them is the Oni. And there is one creature that's mentioned in this, the Kitsune, which is basically what they go for the creature here. Makes no sense. It's supposed to be, because the Kitsune is like the guardian of the temple, except they made it look like a goddamn Wendigo. I don't know why. I mean, it's hard to see. This is one of those bad movies where once the monster attacks and then at night, you can't see shit. It's like one of those films where they made it too dark, inexplicably. Essentially, so they arrive at the temple, they get creeped out, and to their credit, they try and leave once things start getting creepy. But basically, what Japanese-speaking guy breaks his leg. Like literally something crabs up on the floor and pulls him down, possibly, and breaks his leg. And essentially, so now they have to spend the night there, because that's one of the things that the kid was warning them, was make sure you back down before dark. Considering that the kid seems to be involved with some of this shit, I'm not sure why he was telling them this. It's like, if that kid... Guys, it's one of those things that's just so hard to explain. And most of the film is basically just establishing, like, the fact that the boyfriend's an asshole, and how he's slightly cheating on this girl. And the girl kind of has better chemistry with the Japanese-speaking guy. So you have that slight tension there. And apparently she is pregnant or something. I really don't know. And essentially it all comes to a head at the part of the movie where everything just falls apart. Where essentially they're like waiting the night out, like outside, they have like a fire going. And basically she is forced to confront him. Like, she has to tell the boyfriend that she's pregnant or something. And he basically, to its credit, again, he doesn't like hit her or anything, but he basically needs some space and starts going down the mountain to get help for them. And it's like, that's probably one of the better things, because I thought he was just going to punch her out or something. And remember, Japanese-speaking guy's leg is broken, so he can't just rush over to help her. So that was actually surprisingly well handled, in my opinion. But once he leaves, everything falls apart. I mean, both like within context of the movie and in terms of the narrative. Because it's like, boyfriend guy, his name's like James or something, gets stalked by the Kitsune thing. And basically, the girlfriend hears him like yelling out and shit, and she runs off after him. It's like one of those things where the reviewers I've seen snarked at this, where it's like she leaves at the worst possible time. And I think the film was trying to handle it as she chose him over a Japanese-speaking dude, which is weird because that's not the vibe I got from that at all. But, you know, like, who needs things to make sense? And essentially, like, you see, like, these kids looking creatures, that's how I'll call it in the credits, coming up from the same floor where one of them pulled Japanese-speaking guy earlier, and attack him, basically. And while that's being set up and going on, she's trying to find James, and James like something got fucked up with him because he's like, you see like at one point the creature's claws going around him or something. And then somehow they end up in this crawling because essentially when they were climbing up the mountain, like they came across this cool abandoned quarry, like this mine, and so it goes on for miles. And they said they were gonna check it out after they got done with exploring the temple, which I knew that was a setup, but I did expect like it just suddenly out the mine. And again, it's so fucking dark that I really don't know if they actually went there or there was just no fucks given about the continuity. And essentially, she's trying because she hears him like whimpering or something in the distance. For the record, there's no way you can tell what that is unless if you don't have closed captions on, because it just sounds like a vague noise. It doesn't sound specifically like whimpering. And eventually she catches up with James and he has no eyes. It's just like the other stuff going on. And she freaks the fuck out and runs away. She ends up in this dead end. And essentially, somehow, Japanese-speaking guy survives. Because he's the guy that you see that's in the beginning, that's on the wheelchair. Even though, based on all three of those people, he's the one that shouldn't have survived. The girlfriend literally just gets grabbed by something and you never see her again. Apparently, it was Japanese-speaking dude that killed James. And it's like, it reminds me of like Blair Witch 2, where it's like, plot twist, they killed all those people. And I think it actually might make less sense there. Less sense here than it did in that movie. Which, that's saying something. And essentially, it has like that twist ending nonsense, and apparently somehow it was Mike. Like I think his name is Michael. Japanese speaking dude. His name is Michael. He was the one that killed James, but that doesn't make sense because that's white. Like he was right by. Like he killed him where the creature thing had grabbed around his neck or something. So who the hell did the girl see in that one spot? Like did he? Like, did Mike, like, prop him up there? But how did he get over there? And then there's just so many things that just don't make sense. I feel like an idiot trying to describe it. Like, nothing makes sense. Especially during that third act. And then basically somehow Mike gets away. Because essentially, like, they're interrogating him about, like, where's this girl? Like, blah, blah, blah. And for some reason, he flips his shit. Somehow is able to just run out of there, and he's able to run out there after casually killing someone with a goddamn pen. I guess his leg is no longer broken because essentially this is taking place like 5 days after, or something like that. To also compound some other things that make no sense about this, the opening scene. So this is a movie that just starts like it's just so abrupt that way. With these four police guys investigating this temple. Although, given how things turn out, how the fuck do they know that something bad happened? So I just realized that makes no sense. And you see like this policewoman look up at one point in the temple, and you hear like this growling. You see like blood dripping onto that creepy book. And that makes no sense. But that had nothing to do with the movie. Let's see, what also doesn't make sense here? You can do like trading cards of how many things make no sense in this movie. There's like one more thing that's really hilariously bad. Oh yeah, the kid that basically helps Michael get the book, the creepy book, because basically they effectively steal it from this bookstore. That helps them find the temple, that warns them, blah blah blah. He is not real, sort of. He was apparently like one of those kids. It's revealed that he's like one of those kids that had disappeared like a long time ago. Like the kids that disappeared, like that backstory shit was like in the 60s. Not like it actually means anything other than just pointless drivel. But it really doesn't make sense, because it's like, at one point, when they get, because essentially they're at this village that's like at the bottom where the temple is, and they basically end up lodging at this one place for the night. And this woman that they talk to, she interacts with this kid. Because it's like, well, come along now. Like at one point when the kid's talking to him. And stuff like that. And it's like, if that was all in this guy's head, how come she saw it? Like, who... Especially since she later on puts two and two together that that's who that is. So, like, it makes no sense, and it doesn't even try to. It even has one of those fake-out dream sequences, although it's not as bad. It's not, like, as cliched, but that is still what it is. It is a fake-out dream sequence. There's, like, one of them in the film, thank God. Doesn't go too insane with that. But yeah, it's like one of those things that nothing makes sense. Also, apparently the kid was the Michael guy when he was being wheeled into the interrogation room. Saw the kid, and they didn't. Okay, whoop-de-dumbass. That means absolutely nothing in the grand scheme of things. God, what a disappointing thing. Again, I've never seen the Disappointments Room, but I've seen like the midnight screenings of it. And if what I saw on that is, if what they said about that is what I saw on this is very much like the Disappointments Room of J-horror. There's also one thing that was kind of funny in this movie was at one point during this bar where Michael's trying to find where this village is. And he's in this bar, and this is one guy, this middle-aged Japanese guy. Yeah, that's basically like the Japanese equivalent of Zelda Rubinstein, because she's the one, he's the one that's telling him about, like, this temple's fucked up, blah, blah, blah. About the Kitsune, like the guardian, the temple stuff, but he's explaining stuff that reminds me of, like, Zelda Rubinstein and Poltergeist. So it's like, okay, this is interesting. Why? Okay, I don't know what else to say. I apologize if this is rambling and odd, but whatever. You know, I thought it was worth a shot. I had a lot of things to say about this movie, apparently, and I really enjoy the midnight screenings things, so I thought, why not? Alright, bye-bye.